Welcome gamers to a bit of an update on Distant Worlds 2. The Aurora update, the official Aurora update is coming out today, yay! It may have already been up by the time I actually put this video up, but I did want to just go through some of the big points about this particular update. This is going to really, if you're not in the open beta, and I am in the open beta, this is the beta version I'm playing with is 1.1.0.9, but if you're not opted into that open beta, you won't have been playing with all of the incredible latest sort of quality of life additions that have been added to the game. So I thought I'd just do a bit of a quick video, I'm hoping it'll be quick, about what those changes are, just to get you reignited, re-excited. I get so many different comments when I do come in to do live streams with people saying that they haven't really played it much since launch. The game has changed enormously since launch, even just since the last major update. It's since the last major update, there's so many little things that have been added into the game that really make it's such an enjoyable experience now. It really is a great game. People are blown away by what the game has now got. So let me have a bit of a look or show you what those changes, not all of them, there's a mountain of them, an absolute mountain of these changes. But let me just go through, for me, what I think are the most important of the changes. So if we just go to start a new game, as an example, this has been around for a little while, but I'll forget between what's come previously or what's come in this update. So I'm just going to cover the things, I guess, in recent time that I like. I like that it does now warn you if it doesn't think you've got enough capacity to actually then play the game. And so in my case, I'm getting like a warning at 2,000 stars, but even with that, I would still happily play it because it is only the the CPU. Hang on, what's the difference there? Well, I've got 10 CPU cores. I don't have 12, so I'd be thinking, yeah, I could still do 2,000 stars if I had to. So that's one thing that's changed. Is this one in through this side? The other things that are coming in are. And I've sort of reset the game. There's actually there is a bug in this version, so I'm assuming that'll be fixed. It's if you start on hard or above, it's going to then the next time you play it will then ramp up to the next one and then the next one again. So it sort of ends up. You have to watch it, but that I'm thinking will be not in the game. I would assume that would have been fixed in the release version of Aurora. This, as I say, is the open beta. Everything else is like, just leave that one on for now. There's nothing much else in there that's changed. I'll just go back to the back end of the actual game itself. Oh, by the way, there is actually a change. If you do go and choose hard or more, there's now going to put a racial enemy close to you. Okay, so if you're playing as the humans, you're most likely going to get Boscarans or something like that right next to you, just to make it so that it becomes even more difficult. And so that's if you are playing with the random factions turned on. And that's the other big change for me in the setup. Has been the actual what you actually end up having. So if we go through. So this now has been changed as well, and I've been waiting for this one for a long time. You've got auto-generate starting empires is either on or off in through this side, and what used to happen was if you flicked one of them on or off in through here or down through here, it would then toggle the other one as well, so you could only either play with these on or these on. No more. It now actually allows you to sort of like think, okay, look, I'll have 10 randomly generated empires, but let's turn this one on and we'll add a new empire into here, where we end up essentially with, you can have whatever you sort of want to have, set up however you like it. So you can now mix and match. And this is quite important because it allows you now to create scenarios. I think the next step for me would be to actually have a scenario load button back up through here where it has like presets that people like to play. And I think that would be really cool if you can actually save your settings of this particular screen. So that would be the next step, but of course that's not here at this point in time. I'm just happy that it's got what it does actually have in here. It doesn't seem to actually, does it remember? I think it may remember what you had set up in here as well. So anyway, that's in the game, which is great. So you can actually now mix and match those. That's pretty much all there is with the starting conditions. So I'll just go into a game that I've been playing. I've been live streaming this game actually. It's sort of now into the mid game, and I can then show different bits and pieces from that perspective. Right, so this is actually a war that's going on where we're setting up for an invasion of a planet through here with a big fleet. We've got like a light carrier back in through this side, a cruiser that also has carrier capabilities back in through here as well, and they're just going in after this particular spaceport. And so this is the default view of the game. We can sort of rotate it around, we can sort of zoom in. So there wasn't much, it was hard to sort of get like a good feel of the battle. Look at this, if you go down now into the view, or just press tab, you've now got Freeform. We can now start to sort of lay it over, and it makes the game so much more engaging when you're actually watching these the sorts of attacks that would then be coming in from different angles. So you end up with a very, very interesting look and take on the actual combat itself with this Freeform camera. And it really adds a lot to the overall immersion of the game, just with being able to sort of come in at any angle that you like. Now, actually, it's not quite any angle. You can only really go down to a low angle like this, but it really does add an awful amount. So you can't look up or anything like that, but it still does an incredible job. Okay, I'll just grab the 8th again, and we'll just now move it across this way. By the way, the other thing that's interesting, and you'll notice that there's lots of little craft in through this side. I'm just going to go and tell them to prepare an attack. These small craft in through here are now attacking different things as well. What the game has done, which used to be quite annoying in the game, actually, if I just go and grab one of these, you've also still got your same old training camera for this wave bomber, for example. If I just unpause, we then sort of see it's sort of then moving in to do different bits and attacks. These are now get picked up much more effectively if you are leaving systems. It used to be back a fair few months ago now, and I don't know when this was changed, but this was actually a big one, particularly if you're relying a lot on small craft, is that the small craft would get left behind, and then you'd have to rebuild in your carriers, and so it was quite debilitating. You had to sort of micromanage that a lot. I haven't had to do that for quite some time now in the game. It just looks after itself. There goes more beams coming in as well, and so these guys are just sort of zipping around doing their different attack runs. These sort of small, lots of bombers on the actual craft playing as Actarians, of course, which is quite interesting. So anyway, we've got there's a lot to like about the game. They'll just go off and do their own thing, but when it's time to leave the system, they will return to the carrier and essentially get back on board before the carrier then takes off. And so you do have to protect your carriers, but it does mean that the carrier will tend to have its full contingent as long as you're sort of in charge of what's going on, or on top of what's going on in terms of the actual combat itself. But certainly the look of the game is, if I just press tab again, I'm back to that freeform type view. It really has improved a lot, just in terms of the visuals, getting the whatever angle you're wanting to have a bit of a look at there for the actual combat. All right, so that's a big change. Like it's not a big change in terms of the game, but it's immersion wise, the freeform camera is enormous, so that's really cool, and that's just handled through tab. So back in through here, you can just press tab to get the freeform. It seems to be, once you're there, because you can sort of put it still back to top down if you're wanting to, just because it's completely freeform, you can really chop and change the whole look of the galaxy just through your through the freeform camera. It's really amazing. As a very small addition, but one that really does enhance the overall feel of the game. Next thing we're going to talk about is another interesting one, is in your fleets. Now, I like to, and I'd recommend that people actually use the fleet manager to actually manage their fleets. So, for example, in this current game, I've got like a fair few different fleets. If I just go and click on fleets and through here, I've got like a whole number of them. The fleet that we were just looking at there was the eighth fleet down through this side, and so this is the fleet. I can just grab this particular fleet. Now, what they've always had, and what they've had for a long time, is your ability to use templates to manage the fleet. And you can see that this one is actually, this is an attack fleet template, and I don't actually need to be topping it up with any ships. The ships that we actually have are fine, so that's actually good. There's also now a stop button, which wasn't there for fleets. This is new. This means that you can just go to a fleet and say, oops, no, I don't want you to do that. Stop what you're doing, essentially. Now, don't use it, but I have had a lot of comments from people saying that this is something that they've been waiting for. So if you're one of those people, there it is. There is in our stop button on the actual fleets themselves. Other things to talk about, yeah, the topping up. If we go to the first fleet, which is a fleet that's also currently look, this one's got problems here right now. It's also, if I just press number 1, these ships are they're trying to escape from a failed attack that went on in this particular system. This is the home world of the Boscarans, and so they're literally were fighting at the same time as the other fleet. Our other fleet was on a winning side, and these guys were on the losing side. And they've actually lost a lot of ships. A lot of ships have been damaged. I've had to try to build new ships as well, just to come and sort of top them up. So we have to try to get these out of here. In this case, we can just top up their fleet with ships, which has always been there as well, by the way. So this is not new stuff, but if you do use your fleets with a template, I'll show you what has changed. So I can just go and top that one up. It's now sort of adding in the ships that are being destroyed. If we then go up to this little button here, which is our fleet's template, and so this is an attack fleet as well. So if we have a look, this is the fleet template, is the attack fleet, and I can go and change that here with whatever of the fleets that I actually want to have it designated as, but attack fleet is fine. If we go back and click on this button, we then actually have the different fleet templates that we have actually stored. Let's go into the attack fleet template and go and edit that one. And one thing you'll now notice is that we've now got, it looks a bit different in here. There's some big changes that have come in this other side and through here. And so you've got different things like the fleet role, the roles of the ship and the fleet can be upgraded or downgraded to meet overall fleet requirements. So you can sort of go with the attack. When you're in the attack fleet, you can designate how you want these ships to be upgraded or downgraded as well, like just through enabled or disabled, essentially in through there. You've got trim excess ships can be enabled or disabled. You may want to have that disabled if you are adding on extra ships into the actual group, so allow non-matching ships in the fleet to fill out total ship count even when not a precise match. So that's actually allows you then to sort of get rid of ships from if you've got too many at one time. And then auto upgrade obsolete specific designs enabled. So this one here will essentially just retrofit the actual ships as well. So you can sort of enable or disable these globally for the actual fleet itself. Sorry, by the way, this one here, ship roll up or downgrade. What this is if I have designated like a cruiser but don't actually have cruisers, it sort of does this allow them then to use a destroyer in that capacity to sort of fill that role. That's sort of how that would then work. Now, the other thing with this is you'll notice that they've actually now got like a different designation of how the fleet will actually upgrade their own different type. So at the moment, I've got a frigate, a destroyer, a fuel tanker, escort, carrier, and cruiser with different numbers. Now, we had those before, but let's just have a bit of a look at something else. If we go into add item, and I go in and thinking, okay, look, I do want to have like a different type of escort coming in. We haven't been able to do this before where we actually had two different escort designs. And so if I go across and say, okay, look, I want to have like 5 of an escort, and if I just go back down there, you've got the main designation or the main role is still actually where that is. But over here, you now have very specific things that you can then go and do. And so I can actually have a particular version of a craft to come back in if I wanted to, or I can go down and say, from the actual hulls, because like we've got an escort hull, which is there, but I also have a patrol escort hull and a heavy escort hull. And so these can then be used in this capacity. In fact, it may be, if I change this to frigate, we may end up with a few more through here. Yeah. So frigate has just the normal frigate, then it's got the heavy, the fast, and the fleet frigate. And so I can tell it what to use in it, like as the actual hull type. Or we can just go to the latest design for the role. So that means any of the frigates will then, whatever is the latest one, it will then just put that one to the top. And that used to essentially be what the default was for the game up until this particular version. And so this is really, really enormous. So this for me is again one of the very, very major things that they've actually put into this version of the game. And so the latest design for the next one down is the default for, you can see it for a lot of these in through here. So the latest design for the largest hull for the role, which is a bit of a mouthful. So it's the latest design For the largest hull, so in this case we're probably looking at like a heavy frigate or something like this for the roll. So it would then default to the biggest of the craft of the frigate hulls, and then the latest of that particular large version. And so it would then default to a heavy frigate. If I go and I'll show you how that one works in another aspect of the game, but that's essentially now the default when it does come in. But if we wanted to say, okay, look, I only want to have heavy frigates in this particular one, bang, in you go. So this will be the latest design for the hull heavy frigate. And so if we then put in a heavy frigate hull, it's then going to essentially be using just that hull, and when we update it, it'll just update it. And this is such an easy way to then manage your fleets. It's very, very cool the way it does actually sort of then work. And so I use this an awful lot to manage my fleets because it does get unwieldy otherwise too if you're not using the templates. So by all means, use the templates. They're now almost perfect. To be absolutely perfect, actually I'll talk about the next one now, which is related to this. But you'll sort of see how it's then can be sort of played out a little bit further. If we just go back and get rid of the fleet templates and then go across to our actual ships. So if we go to ship designs, for example, and if I just go to hull upgrades, I'll just go to all the manual hulls. These are the hulls that I'm actually looking after myself. I'm letting the game look after certain other upgrades themselves. But you'll see that I've got like a fast frigate and a fleet frigate are the two. I don't actually have a heavy frigate in what I'm actually doing through here, for example. And so the Shadow Force frigate version 1, I'll just use this as an example, which actually this one here is a couple of years old, the fast frigate. I'm using these as bombers. Actually, this is... I'll use the Shadow Force. The bomber frigate hasn't needed to be updated because it's just literally a planet bomber. That's all it really actually is. And I've only got 4 of them. Their role is to basically come in that planet that we were just looking at before, where we were sort of doing that initial attack. The role for them will be to then go and soften up the ground forces on that particular planet, even though it then negatively impacts a reputation, which is another thing I have to talk about as well. There's been changes there as well. There's been so many changes. Anyway, we'll just go across. We'll go to the Shadow Force frigate, and if I just go and edit this one, just so you can see the difference. Actually, I won't do that. I'll cancel that, and what I'll do is I will actually go and I'll go to upgrade, which then will bring us to the next version of this particular frigate in through this side. So we can then sort of save it. It's overweight at the moment, but again, this is new in through here, the retrofit path. And so this design upgrades to the latest design for the hull. The hull being the fleet frigate. So it uses the fleet frigate hull, and it's whatever the latest design for the fleet frigate hull is, it will then upgrade to that particular design, which means that we can have very specific designs on our ships for very specific roles in fleets or whatever else it might actually be, and then have them upgrade to that particular version. It also then allows you to have other types of frigates that you then think, okay, look, let's just say you started off with your basic default frigate, and you're thinking, I don't want to be using these anymore. I've now got my better hull types. I'm going to change the whole thing to upgrade to whatever that one happens to be. So I can go back into here as well and say, okay, look, what I want to do is I want it to upgrade to a particular type, or again, I've got the latest upgrade for the hull, which is what we're using in through this side. The latest design for the roll. Now this one is the latest design for the roll means any frigate, whenever any frigate is upgraded, do that one. Again, that used to be the default, which was frustrating because you can imagine with my bombers, which I've got, which are dedicated bomber ships, I don't want them upgrading to like a Shadow Force beam frigate, which is actually supposed to get into the middle of the fights at all. And so if previously you had to then go and try to micromanage that aspect of it, not anymore, because I just designate my bombers to a particular hull type. And I don't have to worry about it anymore if I just go with the latest design for the hull. And so that's actually quite cool the way that one does work. Or you can go to the latest design for the largest hull for the roll, which basically means whatever the largest one is, it will then upgrade to that all the time, which is the default for the game, which is fine, because it assumes that you're going to be wanting to have the heaviest of that role, frigate role, to then be the upgrade path of where it actually does then go. Or you can go very specifically and say, okay, look, I want this particular design to always upgrade to a particular actual design, so you can sort of tell the thing, okay, like I'm done with the Shadow Force frigates. We're going to go now make them all into bomber frigates. That's another way you can then sort of handle it. Where I think that this needs to go next, and doesn't quite, so for me this is 80% of the way there. What I'd love to see is actually to have like a design name, and actually be able to have like a design name and so that you can have multiple fleet frigates but have a design name and designate the same sort of deal for the actual class name, as an example. So if we had like a Shadow Force Shadow Force frigate being the class designation, and so we'd have version 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. through that one. If that was the designation, like named designation, I would love to see just an extra one saying the latest design for the class name, and that way we then be able to just really fine tune things to sort of keep the same, have multiple designs of fleet frigates that are still upgrading in their own separate way. But that would be a fair bit more work to do, I think, just to sort of get the game to be able to think in those terms. I'm very happy with where this is. It just could go a little bit further in things that I would love to see. Now, another aspect of the game which is also has been worked on and will probably continue to be worked on, I would think, over the coming months, is the diplomacy. There's now been things are becoming much more real with diplomacy, where different groups will respond in different ways to your actions. And so your reputation, for example, is going to be very important for some factions and not important for others. So looking after your overall reputation is actually quite important. Now, it does actually have an overall rust factor. You can see there a reputation of 23.6 is actually very good. It doesn't tell you what that reputation relates to. If I go to someone else, for example, like the Thyphura Conformity, and you can see there their reputation is 9. They're respectable, so we're miles ahead of the respectability aspect with those. The humans are probably going to be, they're heroic, so we'd be getting close up into this heroic range. It doesn't tell us what we actually are. I wish it did. Just put the little name in there, and so reputation becomes much more important for some factions. Things like the humans, for example, or depending on the I think it's also depending on the actual government type that they're using as well. Well, actually, reputation will be more important or less important to them as well. Like it should be down in here somewhere. It will, for like a style of government. We see how we respect your good reputation. This is a plus 14 up through here. This is fair. That's a lot in terms of cementing the relationship. You can see also, like, this is actually, so this has been worked on a lot in recent times, and I think there's still a long way to go with this just to really get the balance of it right, but it's certainly moving in the right direction. So these respect your good reputation. If we go to the Thyphura, you can see there that the hive mind, the Boscaran bug hive mind, doesn't really give a shit about the reputation. So these are much more forgiving of evil empires. But whereas if we have a look at who else, the Andu, so only a +1 for respecting the reputation in through there. The reputation doesn't mean much. I'll just try another one like the Boscarans. +4 for them. It's that's the best thing for them. Like, they're still very angry with us. Harkonish, +6. The other Akdarian, +10 in through there. So it will impact the way that other factions think of you, is actually how you then manage your reputation. So if you start to play as an evil empire, some of the other evil type empires like the Boscarans, and I know that that's a bit of a the evil is in the eye of the beholder, I guess, to a certain degree. But this has now being positioned so that if you do slavery, for example, bombard planets, do unjustified wars, just those sorts of things with your faction, some of the factions will respond very negatively to that now, and others won't. And so and this is all, of course, really being set up for the next DLC, which will be coming very, very soon. That was also announced, by the way. So for those of you that are looking forward to having the Dayort spider people, the spider enslavers, they're going to be back in the game. And so the reputation has been worked on with them in mind to sort of have things sort of set up. This whole slavery system will be overhauled, I believe, as well for that DLC. And so expect a lot of good things to come from the diplomacy as the game starts to build up. And so it's not just the reputation. You can see that reputation is enhanced by different things that you do throughout the course of the game, but also you can see we've got an unjustified war. We declared war against the bugs, and we're just about to go and bombard that planet, which will then give us another big hit to our reputation. Our reputation won't go negative. We've got way too much positivity for that one. Actually, just see what the Teekans think of us. +6, so that doesn't really impact them all that much. But reputation can be important in the game, so just be aware of that one. Sometimes very small points can make a big difference through your actual friendliness, etc. Okay, so anyway, that's sort of that's the overall reputation, and the way that the different factions now sort of deal with you is very much now. It's becoming more polarized in the way that the game actually handles that one, which is fantastic. It really is really quite cool the way it does actually work. So you can end up with a much more aggressive approach to the way that the game actually does sort of play the game. I think that's about all I needed to really talk about here. I didn't want sort of this to go on for too long. There's been a lot of changes. Like, by all means, have a look at the actual at the release notes for the Aurora update. I think it'll blow your mind as to, if you haven't played the game for a while, what the game is now bringing in. But for me, they were the big aspects of the update. As I say, there's been so many of them, so many updates that have come through. Plus, also then you've also got your the bug fixing, and also the speed enhancements for playing the game. Like, they've really optimized the game as well. So they've been working on that solidly for many months, even before this update. But this update, we're now starting to get a lot of the quality of life things in the game that are going to really enhance the gameplay of it. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there. So thanks for watching. Hope that's been helpful. Actually, it's been half an hour again. I can't believe it. It's I thought, I've been doing this for about 10 minutes, but no, it's been half an hour. Anyway, it is an amazingly good update. If you haven't played for a while, load it in, have a look at it. If you are interested in it, I would strongly recommend that you actually do play the open betas for the game, because we've had access to a lot of these things now for quite a few months, as they've been developing them up. I haven't had an open beta that has crushed the game for me. Like, it hasn't gone backwards, it's always gone forward in good ways. And so I do recommend going into the open beta for the game itself. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for watching. I will catch you next time. Again, special thank you to my Patreon supporters, anyone who does support the channel, whether it be by buying merchandise or whatever it might be. Really appreciate the support with that, and I will catch you all next time.